His dad mocked my mom, called me a gold digger. My fiancée just sat there, so I took off the ring and became the woman his mom wished she was. I, 28, walked away from my fiancé, 30, male, 2 years after our planned engagement supper last night. I'm here alone in my apartment right now, still in the outfit I wore, mascara streaking down my face, trying to make sense of what occurred. 3 years ago, Michael and I met at a charity fundraiser. He works in finance, hails from a wealthy family, and moves in circles that I never did growing up. I'm a public school teacher who paid for college with scholarships and part-time work. Despite our diverse backgrounds, we quickly connected. He was charming, clever, and seemed to respect my independence and interest in education. I fell passionately for him, and he seemed to be equally in love with me. He proposed 2 weeks ago while on a weekend trip to the coast. It was private, romantic, and everything I could have hoped for. I agreed without hesitation. The ring was stunning, including an emerald-cut diamond that must have cost a fortune. I was floating on air, excited to begin our life together. Last night, we had our official engagement meal with his family at Liardin, one of the city's most costly restaurants. I'd met his parents a few times before, always feeling uneasy around his father, Richard, a serious investment banker who rarely smiled. Linda, his mother, was courteous, but aloof, the type who values family ties and membership in country clubs. I spent hours getting ready, hoping to leave a good impression. I wore a navy blue dress that I had saved 3 months for, styled my hair in a beautiful updo, and stole my roommate's pearl earrings. I desperately wanted them to regard me as worthy of their boy. The evening began pleasantly enough. Champagne was poured. Congratulations. Michael squeezed my hand under the table reassuringly any time I appeared apprehensive. Then, during the main course, Richard cleared his throat and focused his attention on me. "So, Rachel," he began swirling his wine, "now that you're officially joining the family, we should discuss the prenuptial agreement." The table became silent. Michael tightened beside me. "Dad, we haven't even set a date yet," Michael remarked, nervously laughing. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." Richard's expression stiffened. "Nonsense. These matters should be settled early. The Bennett family assets need protection." I could feel my cheeks burning. "I understand the importance of protecting family assets," I responded thoughtfully. "I don't have any issue with a fair prenup." Linda offered me a faint smile. "How pragmatic of you." "Well, you've certainly landed on your feet, haven't you?" Richard continued, his tone becoming sharper. "A schoolteacher marrying into the Bennett fortune. Your mother must be thrilled." "My mother passed away when I was 19. Michael knew this. His parents were aware of this. "My mother would have wanted me to be happy," I remarked gently, my appetite gone. Richard chuckled. "I'm sure she would. Nothing makes a mother happier than seeing her daughter secure a wealthy husband." I looked at Michael, expecting him to say something, to defend me, but he simply stared at his plate. I didn't say yes to Michael because of his money. I said, my voice wavering slightly, "I love him." "Of course you do, dear," Linda said with feigned sweetness. "The money is just a fortunate bonus, isn't it?" Richard chuckled, a sharp sound that broke through the restaurant's background hum. "Let's not be naive. Pretty young women from modest backgrounds don't pursue men like my son for their personality." I felt as though I had been slapped. "Excuse me, Dad." Michael eventually spoke, but his tone lacked conviction. "What?" Richard challenged. "I'm simply acknowledging what everyone at this table is thinking. She's a gold digger, a rather transparent one at that." Then it occurred. Michael laughed, a quick, awkward giggle that could have been nervousness or an attempt to relieve stress, but it was not a denial. He did not defend me. He laughed. Everything in my mind fell silent at that point. I glanced at Michael, the man I assumed I knew, and realized I was seeing him clearly for the first time. His stillness was deafening, and his chuckle was damning. Without saying anything, I slipped the ring off my finger. I gently placed it next to his water glass. The clink of diamond against crystal sounded unbelievably loud. "Rachel," he began, finally realizing what was occurring. I stood up, grabbed my purse, and left the restaurant. Not rushing, not crying, just walking, one foot in front of the other, head held high. I didn't glance back, even when I heard him say my name. Now I'm sitting here, wondering if I overreacted, whether I ruined my future with one poor dinner. But then I remember his laugh and realize I couldn't have stayed. Was I wrong? Should I have fought harder? Am I simply proving his father correct by stepping away? I'm not sure what will happen next. I just know I couldn't marry into a household where I'd be treated as inferior, and I couldn't be with someone who wouldn't defend me. Act 2. It's been 3 days since I left that restaurant, and my life has been a whirlwind of emotions and conflicts. Michael came to my apartment the next morning. I was still in my pajamas, my eyes sore from sobbing, when I heard his insistent tap. Part of me wanted to ignore him, but I needed to find closure. I needed answers. When I opened the door, he looked terrible, unshaven, disheveled clothes, black circles under his eyes. He had the ring in one hand and a bouquet of roses in the other. Michael, as usual, believed that great gestures could obscure core issues. "Please," he responded quietly. "Let me explain." I let him in, but maintained my distance, arms crossed over my chest like armor. "I'm sorry about last night," he said. "My father was completely out of line. He had too much to drink, and you know how he gets." "Do I?" I asked. "Because in the 3 years we've been together, you've never once mentioned that your father thinks I'm a gold-digging opportunist." He grimaced. "He doesn't really think that." "Yes, Michael, he does. And what hurts more than his words is that you sat there and let him say them. You laughed." Michael raked his hands through his hair, frustrated. It was just nervous laughter. What was I supposed to do, 'cause a scene in the middle of Liarden? "You were supposed to defend me." My voice broke with emotion. "You were supposed to tell your father that I'm the woman you love, that I've never asked you for money, that I've worked hard my entire life. You were supposed to be on my side." He put the ring on my coffee table. "I am on your side, Rachel. Always. I love you. My father's opinion doesn't matter, but it does matter, Michael. It matters because you're letting him disrespect me. It matters because someday we might have children, and I won't let them grow up hearing their grandfather call their mother a gold digger while their father sits in silent agreement." For a time he appeared perplexed. Silent agreement. That's not what happened. Then what would you call it? He couldn't respond. "Has your father always felt this way about me?" Michael paused, which revealed everything I needed to know. "Why didn't you tell me?" I said, my voice soft. "Because it doesn't matter what he thinks. I love you for you, your kindness, your passion for teaching, your ridiculous obsession with true crime podcasts. Who cares what my father thinks?" "I care," I responded without hesitation. "Because his attitude reflects what our life together would be like. Every family gathering, every holiday, every milestone, I'd always be the gold digger who trapped their son, and apparently, you'd always be the man who stands by and lets it happen." "We can fix this," he said. "I'll talk to my father, make him apologize. We can postpone the wedding until things are better." I looked at him intently and discovered something important. "This isn't just about your father, Michael. It's about you. It's about who you become when you're around him. I don't recognize that person, and I don't want to marry him." He left after an hour of circular debates, carrying the ring with him. I've spent the previous 2 days crying, doubting myself, and then recalling his chuckle, which made my resolve strong again. My roommate Jessica has been wonderful, bringing me ice cream and listening to me whine for hours. Michael has phoned 17 times. His mother unexpectedly texted me, "Richard is stubborn, but he'll come around. Don't throw away your future over pride." As if standing up for myself was all about vanity. Yesterday, my principal summoned me to her office. Richard reportedly contacted the school board, expressing concerns about my emotional stability and professional conduct. Fortunately, my principal has known me for 5 years and has made it clear that my personal life is none of his business. The idea that Michael's father would want to harm my job reinforces my belief that I made the right decision. What would have happened if we were married and I disagreed with him? Which lines would he not cross? I have not informed Michael of his father's interference. Part of me wants to. See if he finds out and responds correctly. So far, nothing. Tonight, Jessica and I are going to open a bottle of wine, and throw a burn the wedding magazine celebration. It feels both therapeutic and heartbreaking. I adored Michael. I still love him, but I'm realizing that loving someone isn't enough if they don't have the bravery to support you when it counts. The hardest thing has been dealing with queries from friends and coworkers. Everyone wants to know what happened and why there was such a quick change. I've been vague, merely mentioning that we discovered we wanted different things. It's easier than explaining how the guy I believed would be my husband sat silently while his father called me a gold digger, then laughed as if it were a joke. My sister called from California after I texted her what had happened. She was not surprised. I always thought he was too eager to please his parents, she told me. Remember how he changed his vacation plans last Christmas because his mother said she'd be devastated if he wasn't there? People show you who they are, Rachel. You just have to pay attention. She was correct. Of course, there had been hints all along, small instances in which Michael prioritized his parents' demands over mine or ours. I dismissed them as him being a decent son who respects his family. Now I realize it was something else, a fundamental unwillingness to stand alone, to be his own man. I passed by a bridal boutique yesterday and noticed a dress in display that was almost identical to one I had bookmarked for myself. For a brief moment, I felt that familiar sense of loss, not just for Michael, but for the future we'd planned. The house we spoke about buying, the children we might have had, the life that now existed only in some parallel universe where he was brave enough to pick me. But then I remembered Richard's expression when he dubbed me a gold digger, that cold, contemptuous stare that reduced me to nothing more than a fortune chaser. And I remembered Michael's laugh, that quiet, damning giggle that conveyed more than words ever could. I made the correct choice, and eventually, when the grief has subsided, I hope Michael realizes it too. Update. 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since I ended my engagement, and the tempest has finally calmed. I've returned to teaching, finding comfort in my third-grade students' simple affection and interest. When your own life feels unpronounceable, helping a child sound out a tough word can be incredibly therapeutic. I haven't spoken with Michael in 10 days. After dozens of calls and texts, he eventually sent me an email outlining where we stand. He wrote that, while he still loves me, he believes I'm being overly dramatic about one terrible evening. He suggested we take a pause, until I am ready to be reasonable, as if advocating for my dignity was ridiculous. The most telling section came at the conclusion. My family has certain expectations, Rachel. They've sacrificed a lot to give me the life I have. Sometimes compromise means accepting imperfect situations for the greater good. Reading between the lines was simple. The greater good referred to his inheritance, position in his father's firm, and social standing. I was supposed to compromise my dignity, self-respect, and worth. He'd also avoid having to confront his father. I did not answer your email. What could I add that I hadn't previously said? What I did not expect was Linda's call 3 days ago. She asked if we could meet for coffee alone. Despite my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a tiny cafe, away from her typical haunts. She appeared different, less polished, and more human. She ordered a black coffee and sat across from me, her hands neatly folded on the table. I owe you an apology, Rachel, she said without explanation. What happened at that dinner was unacceptable. I was speechless. This was not what I expected from Linda Bennett. Richard can be traditional in his views, she added cautiously, and Michael has always sought his approval, sometimes at great personal cost. I noticed, I replied dryly. She grinned slightly. I should have intervened that night. I've been intervening for 30 years, smoothing Richard's rough edges, excusing his behavior. I was wrong not to speak up. I studied her expression, attempting to comprehend the rapid change. Why are you telling me this now? She sighed, a deep sound that seemed to convey decades of resignation. Because I see myself in you, Rachel. 30 years ago, I was you. From a humble upbringing, in love with a Bennett guy, and striving to show myself worthy. The difference is that I stayed, made a compromise, and convinced myself that it was worthwhile. She paused. I'm not sure it was. Something clenched in my chest. Are you unhappy? Not exactly. I've had a wonderful life, lovely children, but I've lost a part of myself along the way. My voice, my certainty. When you stood up and walked out that night, I was envious. We spoke for about 2 hours. She told me about her early years with Richard, how his family treated her, how she progressively gave up portions of herself to fit into their world, and how she saw Michael become more like his father year after year, despite her best attempts. He loves you, she added as we were about to depart, more than he's ever loved anyone. But love isn't always enough, is it? I shook my head, tears threatening again. No, it isn't. She briefly touched my hand. Whatever you decide, Rachel, don't compromise yourself away. Not for anyone. I've been thinking about our chat ever since. Was she warning me? Encourage me? Are you saying goodbye? Maybe all three. This morning, flowers arrived at my apartment, not from Michael, but from Richard. The card simply stated, "My behavior was inexcusable. There is no specific apology, only an acknowledgement." Typical. I have not informed Michael about either interaction. I don't know if his mother or father have mentioned them to him. Part of me wonders whether this is another test, whether he'll make apologies because he wants to, or because his parents forced him to. Jessica believes I should block his number and move on. My brother believes I escaped a gunshot. But it isn't so straightforward, is it? I did not merely lose my fiancé. I lost the future I imagined we'd have, the house we planned, the children we talked about. Dreams do not die quietly. Every morning, I reflexively examine my left hand, expecting to feel the weight of the ring. Its absence remains both a source of sorrow and relief. Update. 1 month. 1 month after the engagement dinner, life has taken some unexpected turns. Last weekend, I was packing up my flat. I decided to move to a smaller house because I couldn't afford this one without Michael's help, until he showed up unexpectedly. Seeing him in the entryway, surrounded by half-filled boxes and packing tape, made my heart pound violently. "You're moving?" he inquired, seeming stunned. "I can't afford this place on a teacher's salary," I admitted simply. He gazed around at the destroyed life that we had built together. "I'll keep paying my share. You don't have to move." "Yes, I do." I put down the books I was packing. "What are you doing here, Michael?" He'd come to tell me he was leaving his position at his father's corporation. He had accepted a position with a smaller financial advising firm on the other side of the city. He handed me a letter containing his father's perplexed and angry reaction to his resignation. "I should have done this years ago," he said gently. "Been my own man instead of his echo." I invited him inside, prepared coffee, and we talked. For the first time in years, we had a genuine conversation. He stated that he had spent his life chasing his father's approval, even if it meant sacrificing his own principles. He admitted how badly he had affected me, not just at that evening, but countless times previously, in subtle ways I hadn't recognized. "I don't expect you to take me back," he told me. "I just wanted you to know that you were right about all of it." I wasn't sure what to say. Part of me wanted to fall into his arms and say we could start anew. Another part remembered the expression on his face when his father called me a gold digger. That little pause before the nervous laugh, as if he'd considered the possibilities. "I need time," I informed him. "I'm proud of you for standing up to your father, but this isn't just about him." He nodded in understanding. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here if you're ready." After he went, I sat among my boxed-up stuff, oddly tranquil. For the first time in weeks, the future did not appear to be an endless, scary void. Linda invited me out for lunch 2 days later. She informed me Richard was distraught by Michael's decision. She appeared different, lighter, with a spark in her eyes I hadn't seen before. "Richard doesn't understand why Michael would walk away from everything for—" She blinked. "For a woman." "For himself," I corrected softly. She smiled. "Yes, I suppose he did." Before we separated, she placed a little velvet purse into my palm. Inside was a vintage sapphire ring. "This was my grandmother's," she clarified. "Richard never liked it, said it wasn't impressive enough for a Bennett wife, but it's the only thing I have from my family." She closed my fingers around it. "Whether you and Michael find your way back to each other or not, I want you to have it. A reminder to keep your own light, even when others try to dim it." I tried to reject, but she insisted. It was not an engagement ring, she explained. It was unity among women who understood one another. I did wind up moving, but not to the smaller apartment I had intended. My friend Megan was looking for a roommate in her house across town, further from Michael, closer to my school, with a garden where I could grow the herbs I'd always wanted to try. It feels right, making judgments based completely on what I desire, rather than what works best for someone else. Michael and I have begun conversing, carefully and honestly. No huge gestures, no pressure, only coffee once a week. Conversations that reveal previously unquestioned assumptions and expectations. He's different away from his family's shadow, funnier, more easygoing, and more real. Last week, he asked if we might try again. Make a fresh start. I told him I wasn't ready, that I needed to figure out who I am without him before deciding who I might be with him. I understand, he stated, and I believe he truly did. I am wearing Linda's sapphire ring on my right hand today, not as a promise to anyone else, but as a commitment to myself. I will never suppress my own voice, compromise my worth, or tolerate being perceived as less than I am. I'm not sure if Michael and I will find our way back together. I'm not sure if the adjustments he's making will last. I'm not sure if I can ever totally trust him again. But I know this. Walking out of the restaurant was the most difficult and necessary thing I'd ever done. Sometimes the most difficult steps are those that lead you back to yourself. Update. 6 months. 6 months have passed since that fateful supper, and it feels both recent and distant. I'm sitting on the porch of my new house. Yes, it's my house. A little craftsman with blue shutters and a maple tree in its front yard. Instead, I utilized the money I had saved for the wedding as a down payment. Each mortgage payment seems like an endorsement. This is mine. Earned by me. I chose this. Michael and I attempted. We actually did. For 3 months, we rebuilt our relationship from the ground up, with honest conversations, couples therapy, and clear boundaries. He stuck with his new work despite his father's growing push to return to the family business. He attended a support group for adults living with domineering parents. He was doing everything correctly. And yet, something basic had changed. Every time he took me out to dinner, I found myself scanning the room, tense at the sight of older guys who looked like Richard. When he presented me to coworkers, I examined their expressions for signs of judgment or dismissal. The previously shattered trust was not being repaired, despite both of our attempts. We were eating supper at my house 2 months ago when I finally got up the guts to express how I felt. I don't think we can fix this, I admitted quietly. He put down his fork, his face sad, but not startled. Because of my father? I responded genuinely. Because of us. Because now I know what I need in a mate. And you know what you need to be for yourself. And I don't believe we can give each other those things when we're together. He nodded slowly. I was afraid you'd say that. I felt it too. We sobbed together that night, mourning not just what we had lost, but also what we had discovered too late. He kissed me farewell at my door, returned Linda's sapphire ring when I attempted to return it, and walked out of my life with dignity and elegance. Richard sent a brief and official note. Michael informs me of your final separation. I wish you well in your future endeavors. Coming from him, it was almost like a warm embrace. Linda and I still meet for coffee on occasion. She resumed painting, something she had stopped doing after marrying into the Bennett family. Last month, she showed me a watercolor of 2 people sitting by the sea. That's us, she replied, in another life. I've been promoted to lead teacher at my school, with a small yet significant wage rise. I've started dating again, but cautiously and selectively. Nothing serious yet, but I am open to the prospect. More significantly, I feel complete on my own, in a manner I never have before. My pals joke that I should publish a book, how leaving a fancy restaurant changed my life. Perhaps someday I will. For the time being, I'm pleased to sit on my porch, watching the maple tree's leaves turn color, and feeling the weight of Linda's ring on my right hand, a reminder of both the lady who did and did not walk out. I ran into Michael last week at a downtown coffee shop. He was with an unidentified woman who was laughing at something on her phone. He looked up and noticed me, his smile breaking just before resuming. We exchanged niceties and brief updates. As I turned to leave, he softly touched my arm. "Thank you," he replied simply. "For what?" "For having the courage I did not. For showing me what it's like to value oneself." I smiled, a genuine smile free of the ache that had accompanied my thoughts of him for so long. "Take care of yourself, Michael." "I am," he answered. "For the first time, I really am." Walking away, I felt the last piece of a complex puzzle fall into place. Sometimes loving someone entails leaving them. Sometimes the happily ever after isn't the fairy tale we expected, but the world we create for ourselves. Brick by brick, choice by choice. I slipped the sapphire ring from my finger and into my pocket. I didn't need the reminder anymore. I've become a reminder of strength, of worth. The power of going away when staying would be too expensive. Was it all worthwhile? The pain? The loss starting over? As I unlock the door to my little blue house, mine alone, I know the answer with absolute confidence. Yes,